You're watching Retirement Now with April Roberts.
Hi, Megan Mozak here. Welcome to another edition of Retirement Now, a program that helps you plan the retirement you want. Joining me, CEO and owner of Roberts Wealth Management, April Roberts, and founder, Paul Roberts. They're here to discuss what changes we should be making with our nest egg as we approach and head into retirement. Also, Social Security, what you need to know to get the most of the benefits you're entitled to. And coming up later in Roberts on Retirement, April shares an effective way to understand the investments in your portfolio and to help you live the retirement of your dreams. April, Paul, it's great to be here with you.
Great to be here.
My favorite saying every day is great to be here.
That's right. Well, I want to talk about change.
Yeah.
We're human, right? We are creatures of habit. I don't know about you all, but I've got a schedule. I have a routine. I like to stick to it. As we get closer to retirement, though, we know some changes are in store. I want to talk about that. What should we be prepared for when it comes to change?
Great question, Megan. So I always warn clients when they come on board that first year of retirement, there are a number of changes and adaptations. One is purpose. What are you going to do with your time, right? Suddenly you have money to do what you want. You have all this time. So how are you going to put it to use? And also, suddenly every day is a Saturday. So we tend to spend more the first year of retirement. This is what I've seen with our clients. So we kind of monitor that with them for the first year. Even though we have a plan in place, we make sure we have plenty of extra cash in the bank in case they go over to give them that comfort. And what's really interesting is when they have a plan in place, sometimes couples haven't really talked about what retirement looks like before they come into our office. So, for example, I had a couple in the other day and they have a Doberman. Well, in retirement, she thinks they're going to rescue 11 more Dobermen and get acreage. His idea is he wants to keep their nice, simple house where they live in the city. So I always share with them, when we have a plan, we can run everything through the plan, and then emotionally they can decide what they want.
Wow. And spouses, of course, sometimes having those different views of retirement in their future. That's so important, getting on the same page. Take us through that mindset shift, Paul. People who are working so hard, all of us trying to save as much as we can in our retirement accounts, but then we hit the doorstep of retirement. How does our mindset have to shift?
Well, the doorstep of retirement is probably 5 to 10 years before you retire. You have to start changing your focus from your employer and your job, where every day you go in and you just want to be the best there is, this thing. We need to change our focus gradually over to us, and it's about you and your family. And not that you forget the employer, but you focus more on yourself. You have to learn to think in terms of, well, yeah, I'm getting closer. Questions like, how am I going to be for income taxes? How am I going to be? What happens to me? Does my wife have good survivorship income? There's a lot more to think of in retirement than there was coming up that accumulations part.
And trying to replace that paycheck, April, that's a big concern, isn't it?
It's huge, and especially for the person who's been the provider for most of their life. And sometimes both of you are providers, and sometimes you have a single household provider. So really putting this mentality together. And what we try to work with our clients is to change their concept. Because before retirement, it's like going up a mountain, right? You're just growing your money, you're saving, you're building this pile. And then in retirement, I like them to think of it as two buckets, the income bucket and the growth bucket. Because everybody really still wants their money to grow. I know in their head they think I'm older and I should be more conservative, but they want to participate in growth and make sure they have that security. So if we carve out part for the income bucket and they know that paycheck's coming every month, they don't have to worry about the growth bucket as much.
And going up the mountain, that's hard. Coming down's hard too. Talk about that.
Absolutely. In fact, most accidents happen on the way down. So, I always tell our clients, we want that to be a fun, secure, exciting journey. We don't want you to be worried. So when we have a plan in place and when we have a roadmap, it's a lot more enjoyable, and they can go out and enjoy retirement and find their next purpose.
Have that confidence, both going up the mountain, but also, as you said, April, coming back down. And we're going to continue this conversation in just a moment. April, Paul, thank you. And straight ahead, Social Security. How does that income stream fit into your retirement future? And later on, in Roberts on Retirement, April shows you a smart and better way to understand your investments. But first, here's how you can contact April, Paul, and the team at Roberts Wealth Management.
What does your retirement look like? Is it filled with travel, time with your grandchildren, uninterrupted rounds at the golf course? Or are you too worried about your financial future to even think about your hopes and dreams? Questions about retirement are normal. The Roberts Wealth Management team can answer your questions with a complimentary review of your retirement plan. And it all starts with getting to know you. Roberts Wealth Management specializes in helping people just like you prepare for the retirement you dream of. April and the team can review your current strategy to expose the potential hidden weaknesses that may exist in your retirement portfolio. Plus, they will explain potential risks and possible strategies to you in clear and simple language. Once they understand your retirement goals and dreams, they'll work to develop a custom retirement plan to help ensure that you don't outlive your income in retirement. Retirement doesn't need to be scary. Let Roberts Wealth Management help you retire confidently. Call now to schedule a visit.
For our generation, we've always known that a hard day's work is its own reward. It's something our parents taught us long ago, and it's something we hope continues for our family. Honest work has always been a part of our lives. So for some of us, it's hard to turn off that work switch in retirement. But imagine what can happen when that work switch becomes a life switch. Look at the day that's ahead of you now. 8 hours of your energy, wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do, with whomever you want to be with, at whatever pace you like. And then you realize a nice day in retirement is its own reward. At Roberts Wealth Management, April and the team can help turn a work switch into a life switch. They can develop retirement strategies to help work days become life days, and create a plan for the retirement years ahead.
You're watching Retirement Now with April Roberts.
So glad to have you with us for Retirement Now, here with April and Paul Roberts, talking about Social Security. I want to ask you about this because it does seem fairly straightforward. Take your Social Security benefits, but April, you say there's a lot more to it actually.
Oh, it's very complicated. After the simplification, there are still over 2,000 rules that govern how to take your Social Security. And, unfortunately, when you go visit them, they could walk you through options, but they don't really give you advice. And most times, people are not getting great advice from their advisors either. Maybe they run some numbers or estimates. In our opinion, really running Social Security through your plan and putting it together with the other tools we have in the toolbox helps to make sure you make the best decision for you and your family.
So it sounds like we have to integrate this, Paul, into this overall plan for retirement. How do you approach that?
Well, first thing I do with clients and prospective clients, there's a big misnomer out there in the financial world that Social Security is an investment. It is not an investment, it's a lifetime contract. In other words, lifetime you have to be living to benefit, right? So what they do, sometimes people who have these maximization courses or seminars, which we don't really adhere to much because everybody's different. So what happens is they say, oh, well, if I wait till I'm 70, I'm going to get $300,000 more in my life if you're alive. And I jokingly tell them, we have to have some locker room talk sometime, guys. This is planning. This is all about your life.
How do you approach that then? April, I'm very curious about that. Sure, there are ways to maximize your Social Security, but you're really looking at it for the individual, correct?
Correct. Well, everything in our firm stems from their retirement plan. So we reverse engineer when to take Social Security, when to turn on different sources of income, and how to invest your assets. Because in retirement, you have this bucket of money and we have to make sure it lasts. So it's a little bit different than when you're growing your money. So a couple of things we like to do in our planning. Number one is empower our clients to spend their money, because most of them have worked hard, they've saved money, they've grown their money, sacrificed to send kids through college. So they're not very good at spending their money and enjoying life. So for example, we had a client who came to us. She moved from New Orleans after her husband passed, unfortunately, and she had his pension and her pension, and she came to be close to her daughter and granddaughters. Well, she came in with her plan and she just had her mind set that she was not taking Social Security till 70 because she didn't need it. Fast forward 2 years later, she came in for a review and asked me, I want to go on this Alaskan cruise with the ladies in my neighborhood. It's really expensive. It's going to be $10,000. Can I afford it? So what I did was walk her through and show her how if she took Social Security, she would have an additional $30,000 a year of income. So it's really nice to give people options so they can make the decision that's right for them.
And I love how you talk about empowering people to spend their money because, Paul, we know you can't take it with you.
You cannot, and you have to remember, most of the people we talk to are my generation. And I can tell you firsthand, we were raised with an attitude of scarcity. And we're trying to get people to think more in retirement of abundance and not budgeting. And I don't mean crazy abundance, you know what I'm saying? I mean, think abundantly. If you want to go do a trip, figure a way to go do it. Let's put it in your plan.
Put all that hard work to good use. Absolutely. Right. It really goes back to having, though, a comprehensive plan that gives you that confidence. Talk about that plan, April.
Yeah, Megan. So what we tell our clients we do with their plan is we help them diversify income sources, diversify tax sources, and also diversify how they're invested. So that way we have a broad range to have a higher potential probability of success. So when we do that, you know, most people don't think about Social Security and taxes, but up to 85% of most people's Social Security is taxed. So when we turn on that income faucet, it makes a big difference in potential tax planning. Maybe we want to delay it so that we can do Roth conversions or some other type of tax planning that would benefit both our client and their family in the future.
How surprising is that tax component when you bring that up to your clients?
Very, you know, the analogy I like to use is, I mean, Megan, if I were your boss and I walked in and said, Megan, you're doing a fantastic job, we want to pay you 20% more, what would you say?
You sign me up.
Exactly, but when you're retired, if you pay yourself 20% more than you need, you're just paying too much in taxes. And we all know that Uncle Sam isn't that nice. He's not going to say, hey, you made a mistake, Megan. I know you're retired. Let me give you this money back. So tax planning and retirement becomes very important as to what bucket we're taking our income from.
So key. Have to know all those moving parts. April Paul will continue the conversation in just a moment. Straight ahead, in Roberts on Retirement, April shares how you can get a better understanding of your investment strategy to feel more confident going into retirement. And still to come, we answer questions from viewers just like you. First, here's how you can contact the team at Roberts Wealth Management. Stay tuned.
Are your investment accounts exposed to too much risk? How will your nest egg be impacted the next time the market experiences a correction? Now is a great time to get a no-cost retirement review with April and the team at Roberts Wealth Management.
We believe planning for retirement should be taken very seriously.
Here's what they'll do. Review your current strategy and expose some of the hidden weaknesses of your retirement portfolio. Compile a fee report to uncover how much you're really being charged in fees. Show you safer money alternatives to ensure you don't outlive your income in retirement. Plus, stress test your portfolio and perform a risk assessment of your current retirement accounts.
It's one of the most important things you can do. It's about planning for your future.
Call Roberts Wealth Management now to get started on your no-cost retirement review with April and the team at Roberts Wealth Management. Call now.
Just when you may want to forget your age, Uncle Sam says not so fast. Knowing your age is more important than ever when it comes to taking your required minimum distributions, or RMDs. Legislation just changed the age requirement, and not accounting for that could impact your retirement plan. It could be key to not overpaying on taxes in retirement. So remember, when it comes to RMDs, age is more than just a number. Before your next birthday, call today to secure a strategy for the RMD age change and your retirement.
You're watching Retirement Now with April Roberts.
Have you ever felt overwhelmed when trying to make sense of your investment portfolio? Don't worry, you're not alone. The good news is April is here with a simple way to make sense of it all. April?
Thanks, Megan. Just the other day, a couple came into my office. Let's call them John and Mary. John was an engineer for a large oil company, and he'd always worked in risk management. Mary retired from the local school district after many years of taking care of kids. And the first thing out of John's mouth was, April, we've got to have growth. Our money has to keep growing. Just because we're retired, I don't want to be too safe. Immediately, Mary said, but I don't want to grow too much. I want safety. And John followed it up saying, yes, and we need access to our money at all times. We need liquidity in our assets. So this is a pretty typical scenario. Couples come in and sit down and they've never had this conversation before. And so again, in our discovery meeting, we're going to sit there and write everything you want on the board. But at the end of this chat, what I had to explain to John and Mary was that although this was their ideal investment, kind of like the unicorns that my 3-year-old niece loves, it doesn't really exist. There are no unicorns in investing. But if we put a well thought out plan together, I thought that at the end they would be happy. While you can have safety in some investments, growth in others, and liquidity in others, it's very rare that you have all three things in one vehicle. So what I did was walk them through the 3 worlds of money. And most people don't understand this. Again, you can have growth, you can absolutely have safety, and you can have liquidity of your assets. But each of these 3 worlds includes about 2 of the 3 types. So let's walk through those together today. The first world is the protection world. Here, there are cash, CDs, fixed annuities, and treasuries. As you can imagine, Mary loved this world because it gave her her safety and her liquidity. And then we went to potential because we wanted John to be happy as well. And there we saw he could have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, variable annuities, ETFs, and commodities. And in this world, they could have growth and liquidity in their plan. And then finally, I explained to them something that most people don't understand, and that's that we have a hybrid world. In this world, there are things like equity-linked CDs, fixed indexed annuities, and even indexed universal life insurance. And in this world, in fact, you can have safety and you can have potential growth. But what you don't have is full liquidity. Now, how do we get the best of all worlds? Usually, it's by putting a plan together to back your goals and your desires. And so you can see how we can have a little bit of each of these worlds in your plan to help you and your family reach your goals. What's important to remember about the 3 worlds of money is that in the first 2, the protection and hybrid world, you have safety. Again, in the protection world, we're also going to have extra liquidity. In the hybrid world, not as much liquidity, but better potential growth. And then in the final world, potential growth, that by the way John really liked, you have growth and liquidity, but what's important to remember is you also have potential for market loss. At the end of the day, we can combine all of these worlds to get a plan together for you. If you're like John and Mary, we see this all the time. Often couples come in and they want different things. They have different goals for their money. We sit down together with them and put together a plan that's right for them. In fact, it's not always a couple. The other day, I had a lovely lady come in. She was a retired professor and she was a widow. And when I asked her what she wanted her money to do for her, she said, April, that's easy. I want it to grow as much as possible. I don't want to lose any. I'd like safety and I want access to it at any time. So again, together I had to walk through with Marilyn about the 3 worlds of money. We have this conversation all the time. So if like Marilyn or John and Mary, you're confused and you don't know the best world or the combination of the 3 for your family, come in and see us. We're happy to help. And maybe unicorns do exist. Megan, back to you.
Thanks, April. Still to come, we'll hear directly from you in our Q&A segment. But first, here's a special offer from April and the team at Roberts Wealth Management. Stay with us.
When it comes to your financial future, what's the value of an objective opinion? As someone looking for financial guidance, you have choices. There are thousands of captive financial advisors who work as employees for large national companies. There are also many independent financial advisors who aren't bound to any given company, investment strategy, or product. So what's the difference? And why does it really matter to you? Consider this. If you walked into a doctor's office with a sore throat, a bad cough, and a high fever, you'd expect that doctor to assess your symptoms, do a thorough diagnosis, and ultimately hand you a prescription written to cure your particular ailment. In other words, you'd expect the doctor to consider all the medications available and give you his or her best thinking on what's best for you. On the other hand, if that doctor opened the cupboard and only had 3 or 4 prescriptions available, most patients would immediately raise an eyebrow, suspicious that they might not be getting what was really in their best interest. The same may be true for your finances. If your financial advisor is an employee who is contractually bound to represent a given insurance or investment company only offering their products, while there are literally hundreds of others available, how can you be sure that you're being offered what's best for your situation? You don't walk into a tailor or a seamstress shop to get clothing off some rack. You go for a custom-tailored fit. And with something as important as your financial future at hand, don't you expect the same? We believe you deserve an objective opinion. We think you deserve to consider more of the available options. And we believe your financial future is worth a custom-tailored prescription designed to help you feel confident for the days ahead. If you'd like a second opinion on your current retirement strategy, simply contact our office today.
You're watching Retirement Now with April Roberts.
It's now time to get to some of the questions you have for April and Paul today. You guys ready for this?
Ready.
All right, our first question comes from Frank in Tomball. He says, I'm retiring in 6 years and I've never really had a financial advisor. What questions should I be asking when I'm looking for an advisor?
First thing I would like to do is congratulate Frank for asking that question 6 years in advance of retirement. I love to get people in 5 or more years in early. It's easy to help them. It's a lot easier to see forward. But Frank, also remember, it's not so much as the questions you ask, which are very important, but it's the questions the advisor asks you, because great advisors ask the right questions.
So make sure that it's a dialogue. It's
That's
not just
right.
a one-way
That's
street.
right.
That's
That's
so
right.
important.
That's right.
Getting out in front of it a few years before retirement and doing your homework.
Should be a
So-
conversation about you.
Absolutely.
Megan, when I started with Dad in 2008, the first thing he told me was, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And we know what that is, right? And unfortunately, this is not the experience most people have when they go in to see advisors. So a lot of times people are shocked when they come in for our discovery meeting, because it really is all about them. Because the better we know them and their family and what's important to them, the better we can make the plan to fit.
Great advice. This next question is from Carrie in Pearland. She says, my husband and I are considering setting up an appointment with your office. What should we bring in and how should we prepare?
So Megan, Carrie's asking a phenomenal question, because our time's valuable, and when people come in to visit us, we want to take their time very seriously. So the better prepared they are, the better we can serve them. So Carrie, what'll happen is our team will send you a little package. It's nothing overwhelming. We can email it to you overnight, and it's a family questionnaire that I suggest you and your husband go through together. And really it helps you talk about how you think and feel about your money. And the second thing is a list of suggested items to bring in. So we always recommend come prepared. If at the end of the meeting you don't want to go to a second meeting, then you can keep all your documents, no need to share them. But in that first meeting, it's really all about you. So a couple of other important things to do are have a discussion with your husband. What does retirement look like? Are we staying in our house or are we moving? How much do we need to spend a month to support our lifestyle? And then finally, also just be prepared to answer questions, because when you come in, we really want to get to know you and your family and what's best for you.
It's really about discovering who they are, what they want out of retirement. April, thank you.
Yes.
Our next question comes from Nancy in Houston. She says, my husband and I have just moved here from out of state. We have our money with a big brokerage firm because we figured they have an office just about everywhere. We realize now that our investments were not quite what we thought, and we're not sure what to do. Does your firm provide second opinions?
Absolutely we do. We love to do that because we go through a process with a prospective client like Nancy that tells them probably for the first time in their life to know exactly how much risk they've been at. Because the financial world talks all the time about return, right? They don't talk a lot about risk. They talk about risk in general, but they don't talk about your risk.
So that second opinion, I think about if I have a problem with my vehicle, I'm probably going to get a second opinion. Of course we do this with our health. I figure we should also do it with our finances, right, April?
Absolutely, Megan. So, obviously your health is first and foremost, but the second most causer of stress is finances. So why wouldn't you get a second opinion? As Warren Buffett always says, you don't know who's wearing swim trunks till the tide goes out. Right now, we're still in great economic times. Come in, make sure your plan's in place. Make sure you're prepared for that next recession. Make sure that you have a plan and your income will continue.
Do you ever have someone come to you and you tell them, you know what, you are sitting pretty?
Yeah, often we have people who've done everything right. They have more money than they're ever going to spend in their life. And we tell them that and they feel better. But we also show them little ways we can tweak the plan to improve. And then it's up to them if they want to do that or not.
Getting that confidence. Our next question is from Nate in Cyprus. He says, I have about $500,000 saved in 401ks, still with various companies where I've worked. I'll probably work another 10 years. What's your recommendation?
So Nate, great question. I just met with a 36-year-old prospective client the other day. His neighbor sent him to see us, and he had 4 old 401ks. So this is a common problem in today's world. And what cracks me up, Megan, is that people leave and they clean everything out of their desk, including the paper clips, and they take the sticky notes, and they leave their lifetime savings behind. And it's often because they don't know what to do with it. So one of the things we love to do is help our clients get organized. When you simplify your life and combine all of these old accounts where you have control over them and the options of how they're invested, it's a lot more powerful for your future. So Nate, come in and visit with us.
So no orphan 401ks. You want to make sure you have everything buttoned up. It really goes back to having that plan you talked about, April, to gain that confidence.
Absolutely, Megan. A plan, and then you have to monitor the plan.
Absolutely. And you're with them every step of the way. Paul, April, thank you so much. If you have a question, you can visit AskAprilRoberts.com. In fact, we might use one of your questions on a future show. And don't hesitate to act on the information you've heard today. It never hurts to call, even if it's for that second opinion. So don't wait, call now. For April and Paul Roberts and the team at Roberts Wealth Management, I'm Megan Mozak, hoping you have a great day and an even better retirement.